And we are starting today. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Blue Star Connection with Kelly and Kim. And we have live people pop in and out, so we may be talking to you. So first, we're just going to start the way we start all of our little Kelly and Kim shows, and that's with reading the Eternal Teachings by Christopher Timms. He is our main minister, I guess you could say, from the Order of the Blue Star, and we learn a lot from him, and you can too if you go to ChristopherTimms.com, and Christopher Timms on BitChute and Rumble and X, and I don't even know everywhere he is, but you'll find him there. Awesome. So if you choose, you may close your eyes and just listen, or you can not get as much out of it and think about your shopping list. It's up to you. All right. Let's just take a deep breath in and out. There is an essence that binds and sustains and is all life. This essence, this living presence, is the oneness that you are. The oneness that you are. Shapeless, formless, and eternal are you, with no boundary, with no container. You were never born, so you can never die. This is the oneness that you are. This is the oneness that you are. With nothing to grow into and nothing to become, for you are all life. You are all life. There's no separation between you and me, the air that we breathe, the sun that shines upon us, or the earth that we walk on. No separation at all. All life is one, always has been, and always will be. And this oneness that is the air and the earth, this oneness that is the seasons for the harvest and the laughter of the children, this is the oneness that you are. This is the oneness that you are. This cannot be taught to you, for this is not to be understood. This is only to be experienced, appreciated, and realized. Accept this and be free. Accept this and be free. Accept this, all of this, and be. Just be. Just be. Just be. And go ahead and take a deep breath in. Slowly let it out. And as you reach the end of your exhale, you can just touch the tip of your tongue to the roof of your mouth. Just a moment. Let it go as you just ground yourself in this time, in this moment, so that we are all on the same wavelength, the same frequency, so that we can take in this information and that Kelly and I can groove with you and say the right words that are meant for you. And when you're ready, you can allow your eyes to open. Awesome.
Thank you.
All right, well, let's just, I do have a burning question for you, Kelly, based on our last conversation, part 4. Oh, by the way, should I tell them what our title is? Art of the Warrior, part 5. Yay! Yay! We made it to a whole hand. High five.
High five.
Anyway, my burning question for you is the wedding bridesmaids attire settled?
Yes, it was settled. Lauren, my daughter, has stepped out of the wedding, and a new bridesmaid has come in. At first, it seemed like everything was good, but the other day she sent me a text saying, it could have worked out, and I believe her that it could have worked out if there was a little more open-mindedness with her brother, my son. But so yes, she's got another bridesmaid who's now got her dress, and so everybody's got their dress except for me.
You got
So
time.
I got time. I got about 3 months left. So
Yeah.
I'll find one. It'll work out.
And if
So,
not, then we're really looking at you.
right. I'm not the star of the show. Crystal and Nathan are the star of the show. So it'll all work out. It'll be good. So yeah, just excited.
Well, at least it's settled one way or the other, whether it's the happiest outcome. Who knows? We don't know the other way would have turned out well or not. Who knows?
Who knows?
That's just life. We pick one path and we can't do both paths, can we?
Nope, not always.
No. All right. Shall we just move on with our part 5?
I'm sure.
Okay.
We can do that.
I am going to recommend our little go around the Bhagavad Gita and how it ties into the art of the warrior. We've gone through several shows.
Kim,
Yeah.
you're breaking up.
I'm breaking up. Breaking up is hard to do.
Your internet's going kind of crazy.
I'm so sorry. I got on my best one. I wonder if my best is second best. How am I now?
Better.
Better?
Yeah. You don't sound like a robot now.
But man, that was my prime intro, and I don't even know what it was now. Okay. Anyhow, we've talked about Way of the Peaceful Warrior. We talked about the Art of War, and now we're on the Bhagavad Gita, where the literal battle, they're talking about the battle on the battlefield, that battle is also symbolic. So that's our core idea that we're getting from this book, is that the literal battle is also symbolic. So the battlefield is real, but many teachers note its symbolism. So they say, Arjuna's relatives are on both sides, so that represents inner conflict. And there's symbolism because there's a conflict between duty versus emotion. There's a conflict between spirit versus ego. Which do you listen to? And then there's the idea about Krishna's chariot, that its guidance symbolizes higher wisdom guiding the mind. So the message here is that war isn't just outside, it's inside every person making hard choices. I'm just going to stop there for a second, because if you think about in real war, I mean, you have a platoon, brigade, battalion. I have no idea. I'm not a military gal. But inside each of those groups or teams there's the individual. And if they're not on board, you really have some problems. And you know what I'm going to add now? So, being a hypnotherapist, people want me to talk about hypnosis, so I've looked into a little bit of the history of it, and it talked about how they would use hypnosis before a battle, because how else would you get men go out there and kill other men if they weren't hypnotized that they're bad and they want to do this, or whatever propaganda has told them, whether it's true or not. I mean, they use it to get men to go out there and have battle. Okay, so spiritually the message, if you interrupt if you have anything, Kelly, I know I'm rambling. So spiritually the message is the real battlefield is consciousness. So it's each person's own consciousness. The battlefield represents their conflicting values, their competing inner voices, they're contemplating fear versus truth, ego versus spirit. while the warrior's real work is choosing higher consciousness over habit. And I think that means habit of thinking, habit of, feuding, this feud with another country. And the warrior's real work is acting consciously, not from conditioning. And that's what hypnosis, it's not as much programming you as it is deprogramming you from you believing what you thought was true, which wasn't true, but somebody told you it, and now you're living it. When you can switch that, you can just switch, in essence, like what timeline you're on, what path you're on.
Yeah.
And it's up to you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to just go over, there's a few questions here that maybe you want to
chime in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chime. Where in my life do I feel pulled between two inner voices or values?
Mm.
I'm just going to pause, and if anything pops in your mind, we can talk about it now, or we can move on. You can say pass.
Go on to the next one, and I'll keep thinking.
Okay. Well, I'm going to think, for me right now, pull between two inner voices or values, I think as a woman with a husband, a family, and a profession you're trying to do podcasts, we got all these more than two inner voices. You need to do this, you need to do that, we're out of toilet paper, what's for dinner, that sort of thing. So yeah, I think just all day long with all our roles that we have to get everything. We don't have to, but you know what I mean. We're striving to get all this done, and somebody's not happy.
Right.
Or maybe does that remind you of the round table?
Yes, because Christopher talking about the round table and all the knights and each one representing a different voice. And is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, it's all aspects of us and our own personal round table.
Yep. And all that just kind of, clutters our mind because it depends on who's got the stronger voices coming out first or second. And sometimes that makes us anxious. Sometimes it makes us feel unworthy, or makes us feel like we're not accomplishing everything we want to accomplish. So then, it becomes just like he says, a battleground within your mind, because you have all these knights in your head trying to figure out, they're all competing for your attention, and you're trying to make heads or tails out of your inner voice. And then it comes down to those beliefs, like you were saying with hypnosis, your belief in what you feel or think, and that is it true or is it not true? So yeah, definitely the round table would definitely play a role in that. And as women, I feel like we have lots of little, white hats or hats, little hats on our heads of all the different roles that we play, and that which makes, life, it can make life more stressful, it can make life, blissful, but it just all depends on how well you can just sit in that stillness amongst all the chaos in your head. And one of the things that I like to tell some of my clients when they've got, they're trying to sleep or they got a list of things going through their head, I tell them to write things down, because then you can say to your round table up there, look, we already have everything written down. We don't have to keep going over these lists night after night after night. We can actually lay back, relax, and go to sleep without have to keep thinking of all the things that we need to do. Kind of shuts up those roundtable people.
Yeah, because I don't even know how you would know who to listen to. It gets so hard to prioritize because everybody wants something, and it just puts stuff on the back burner. And it's still, even if you write it down, it's still there. You got to finish the project.
Yes, but you can prioritize then. When you have it written down, you can look at it and say, okay, this round table here, so let's say my leaking roof. Where's my leaking roof in my prioritize? Is that something that I need to address, or can I just let that go for right now? Well, Michigan's having a bunch of storms right now, so my leaking roof that I experienced last night has now become atop of my priority list, where, doing laundry right now may not be the top of my list right now. Does everybody do I have all the garments that I need to wear the next day? If I do, then, laundry's down on the list, and you can just put 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's always changing. So, but it's a way of getting that out of your head so that you can think more clearly, so you're not doing battle like, I've got to do this, no, I got to do that, what do I do now? Because it can stagnate you when you have all these things in your head competing. You're just like, but I got to do this, but no, I got to do that. And which one do I go first? And so it's a way of helping to organize your thoughts.
I think that's great advice. And in case people didn't have a clue, we're talking about King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table.
Yep.
Okay, so we got another question if we choose to expand on that our audience can ask themselves. When I face hard choices, how do I discern between fear and truth within myself?
Ooh, I think discernment. Discernment comes in there because you have hard choices, and that discernment is going to help you decide, what choice is going to be right for you or not. And then you can also discern whether it's a fear-based issue or if it's a true self issue. And again, that could be a journaling thing. What am I really feeling here? What am I not feeling here? Those hard choices too. Then it could also be talking to somebody about it. I've got this hard choice to this hard choice. Which one is better for me? And then, just sometimes just having that close friend or girlfriend just to be able to say, hey, let me run something by you. In your own way, you can figure out or discern which is actually better for you than if you just kind of like don't talk it out. I feel like a lot of females talking it out with a friend or with their husband or whoever they're comfortable talking to, that also helps bring out their truth. So, but I think discernment is huge with that.
Yeah, I think having a sounding board that can point you in the right direction, or just ask the questions like, you told me this, but this, or, what do you mean by that? Can you give me an example? That kind of thing. Yeah, I think that's good. And just between fear and truth, I think just asking yourself, what am I afraid will happen? And is it really likely? You're not likely that somebody's going to, come up and punch you in the face because they didn't like what you said. I mean, it could happen, yeah, but it's not likely.
It's that realm of possibilities. There's, for every decision or choice you make, there's thousands and thousands of other possibilities that could go on. You just have to figure out or discern which is going to be I guess, less of the evil or the better choice or what's going to work for you or what's going to work for your family, your friendship or your job. It just comes down to that discernment and like you said, that fear. What are you afraid of? And once you can face that fear, then you kind of look at it like, well, that's kind of dumb. But in the time, you don't really realize it's dumb because it's such a fear that it kind of stagnates you and you don't know where you want to be. So, fear and truth and just kind of going within and then being in that stillness.
Yeah, I think you could also go back and self-analyze if you choose. Like,
Yep.
When did I feel like this before? When's the first time I remember feeling this way? Because that's probably the trigger that you need to work on, not what you're fearing in this moment.
Right.
Possibly. We are not claiming to be medical professionals and giving psychological evaluations.
No.
Okay. We're just two beautiful people sharing. All right, so another question you might choose to take on. Do my decisions come more from habit and conditioning or conscious choice?
Yeah.
Oh, our parents.
Yeah, I was just going to say, all the conditioning from when we were children growing up and what our parents installed in us. And that also plays a huge role in how what we do, our habits, what do we do when we get up in the morning, or what are some of the other things that you do in, like married couples, when they get married, they're learning how to live together and how one's habits with the other one's habits, and how does this one do the laundry and how does that one cook, and who cleans what which way, and do they scrub this really good or do they just do a half-assed job? So there's a lot of learning when it comes to being married to somebody else, whether it's a girl or a guy or whatever. You're still got to make those habits from before to now and after. So you have those habits that will change over time, and some of those habits kind of remain with us from childhood, and sometimes they can be annoying and sometimes they can be a great asset.
Yeah, and I think we can look at our habits and see if are they even serving us anymore.
Yep.
Oh, and speaking of habits, I know Linda did with Ashley. Can't remember the title on it, but rituals. She talked about habits, and that was pretty cool, that episode, if you go back and look at that. But I'm thinking, so if I have a habit, if I get up in the morning and I make my smoothie, and then I drink my smoothie, and then I go to work or whatever I do, is that really going to serve me every day? Because some days maybe I'm not hungry. Why am I eating? Because it's just a habit. So we need to be conscious about our own habits, not just getting along with others also, because you just don't know what. I don't know. I think, well, I already thought about this, and I know the perfect way to do this. You get all this stuff out of the fridge, and then you carry this over here, and then you do this and put this in. You have your conditioning what's the best way, but maybe we need to change it up a little bit so we don't get hypnotized and too comfortable.
And they always say, the mind has its own routine. So, it knows its routine. So they say when you go to work, instead of driving the same way to work every time, take a different path. Why? Because that makes the mind have to rethink. Oh, how am I going to get to work today? What, we're not going the same route this way? What's that going to do? Am I going to be late? Am I going to be early? It's that retraining those pathways in the brain too, to look at other possibilities, other ways of going to work, or other ways of going to the gym or wherever you may be going. Even going to the grocery store, instead of driving straight down the road to the grocery store, maybe you make a right-hand turn and go around the block and then go to the grocery store. It's changing that pattern, so it makes you consciously look at where you're going and how you're going to get there, instead of being an autopilot where I'm going to the grocery store from A to B and this is how I'm going to go. Instead, you're going from A to B to C to D to E and F, and now I'm at the grocery store, because it's now creating me as a conscious person having to think, how do I get to the grocery store if I don't go the way I normally go? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's the art of the warrior, is not doing things just out of habit. It's being conscious and mindful at all times.
Yep.
Which, I don't know if that's the best to be at all times, because sometimes, I want to talk to my friend and just drive. I don't want to be, think about, I want to go a new way today.
Well, you're already using new pathways when you're sitting in the car, because you're now subconsciously in autopilot driving that car while you're talking to your friend, and you don't always have that friend either sitting next to you or on the phone. So now your mind is multitasking, because now you're having a conversation on the phone with your friend, and you've got to get to point A to point B. So you're using different pathways that you normally don't use if you don't call somebody or you don't listen to the radio and you're just driving. Then you're not really conscious if you're just driving from A to B. But if you're driving to A to B because you're talking to somebody, well, now your brain's got to think of the conversation, and then you're going to just automatically go, because if you try to go a new route, you're going to get confused because you're trying to talk to them and trying to drive at the same time, and that can be not so very good, because that can maybe cause an accident, or that could just, who knows what it might cause. But it's just doing those different pathways to help the brain and to be conscious of what you're doing.
I would agree. All right, we're going to be here forever if we.
Okay, well then.
Okay, let me go through the last couple questions.
Okay.
What does my higher wisdom sound like, and do I have space to hear it? Sometimes we don't want to listen to what we know. We're like, yeah. No, I want the easy way.
Maybe surrendering comes in there.
Yeah. Or just suck it up.
Surrender to your higher wisdom. Fine. I'll just do what my higher self wants me to do. Fine.
Yeah. And that reminds me of your personal spiritual journey you shared in one of the talks, too, about surrendering. And finally things started falling into flow once you surrendered. Yep. So people go listen to that when Kelly did. Okay, another question in this portion is, if my current struggle were a battlefield, what would each side represent inside me? Gosh.
I would say probably your child, your inner child, your inadequacies, your ego, your you're puffing up, I got this kind of thing, or the shrinking down, oh, please don't look at me. You have all those different personalities within inside you, and that's probably what a lot of the battlefields look like. I'm not good enough. I'm not. I'm guilt. I have this guilt. I feel lazy if I don't do this. But I'm workout, so I'm good. I'm whatever that might be. Those round people are for you. It just depends on your self-talk. Self-talk. How much do you love you, and how bad do you put yourself down?
That's very deep. I was more superficial when I thought of the question. I was just thinking, I want to do work, but I want to do play. I want to do this, but I want to do that, and this and that, and those are the two sides inside of me. It's more than two sides, but it's always having to make a choice between do this or not do this. So it's do that or not do that, because you can only multitask so much, right?
Right. Right. That's
So
the two-sided coin, right?
yeah.
So
I don't know how you can make a different kind of coin. I guess it'd be a dice.
so
Different shape. All right, your turn, honey.
okay, so we're doing devotion transforms the wire. Example from the Gita. Krishna says, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer, do this as an offering to me. Later, he says, surrender all my actions to me with mine and the self. Krishna teaches Bhakti Yoga. Offer every action to the divine. Let life move through you. Become that instrument, not the controller. Becomes the servant of truth and not the personal hero. The message is life becomes sacred when actions become offerings. This turns into devotion. Spiritually, the warrior stops asking, what do I get? And asks, how can I serve truth? Wow, this kind of goes in with Jonathan and Trisha's talk the other day on serving the divine, I think is what they did. Or how do you bring in the divine during your daily activities? So the questions are, do I approach my actions mainly from what do I get or how can I serve?
I wouldn't even know. I don't think about it too much, but I'm sure it's both. I'm sure I flop back and forth. Yeah, I want this, but hey, what do you want, honey? What do you think?
I tend to, how can I serve more? I mean, yes, every now and then, what do I get? That doesn't come in, and I may not consciously be aware of some of that, but I do know I tend to go, how can I serve? I can give an example. Our neighbor across the street just went through radiation at the beginning of the year, and he lost a ton of weight. And at the beginning of the year, when the snow melted and he was finally done with all of his radiation and that, but it was time to mow the lawn. And never did he ask us to come over and mow his yard. It was us going over there unconditionally, just serving him and his family the best we could. And we went over there every week and mowed his front backyard without being asked, without even thinking, what am I going to get from this? That was never the intention. The intention was helping them in their need while he was recovering. So that happens a lot with my husband and I. We tend to, how can I serve more than what do we get from this?
Yeah, I think I misunderstood what I was thinking. I don't do things to get things. Well, I mean, sometimes, a job, want money. But that's prostitution, by the way. Just saying what Christopher would say. But I think I'm also, the way I took it was, how can I serve others and how can I serve myself? That's why I thought I'm bouncing back and forth. Like, yeah, I'm doing it for other people, but I also want to do things for me. So I also want to play, and I also want to work to serve others. And I enjoy working, so that is something I get out of it. Because
Yeah.
I enjoy, you enjoy helping your neighbor.
Right. But you also, if you're enjoying what you're doing, then it's not work.
Then you're not a prostitute.
You're not prostituting yourself. If you're enjoying and you would do it for free and not get paid for it, then it's not prostitution. If you're doing it because you just need the money, then you're prostituting yourself just because you need the money.
And I'm not saying that that's wrong.
No, not necessarily. I mean,
but it's a way you could look at it.
Yep. So our next one is, what might change if I treated even small daily actions to be sacred offerings?
For me, it would, I don't even know how to say it. It would keep me focused on spirituality more. I wouldn't be just going through the motions, hypnotized. What was the other word we used? Conditioned.
Yes.
So I think what might change is what I choose to do. I mean, is my small daily action of watching a TV show really a sacred offering?
It can be.
Yeah, but it's probably not.
I don't know.
But I'm going to say, for me, that's not why I'm doing it. I don't know.
If it's a way for you to just sit back and relax and you're just grateful that you have the opportunity to watch something, well, then when you're grateful and you put that intention out there, I'm just grateful just to be able to sit here and watch this for the next 30 minutes. That's one, giving yourself self-care, but two, it's also you are the divine, so you are in the middle of a sacred ceremony by watching TV. It may be subtle and not, you may think it's mundane, but that mundane thing is still a divine intervention because you're sitting there watching something that's benefiting you. You're resting. Your mind is just kind of engulfed in something that you're not doing something else. You're just you can almost be mindless there, but it's a way of looking, depending on what you're watching too. If it's something that's spiritual or if it's something that you're learning about that you've wanted to learn, then I would say that is a sacred art. I mean, you can look at doing laundry as sacred. You can, when you're cooking, you're doing something that's sacred. Putting on your shoes, you're grateful. You're grateful that you can bend over and put your socks and shoes on, and you can tie. You have the faculties to do all that. That's a sacred ceremony.
Yeah.
You look at things differently when you're doing them, and you have that heart of gratefulness, gratitude.
Yeah, I'm still working on even remembering. I'm a work in progress.
We all are. It's okay. Anything else?
Not on that one.
Okay, so then the next one is, where in my life am I trying to control outcomes instead of being a willing instrument?
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because you said earlier about Krishna teaches Bhakti Yoga that You want to become an instrument, not the controller. So where in my life am I trying to control outcomes instead of becoming a willing instrument? Oh, well, like everywhere.
Yep.
Well, just because I'm telling you how to do something doesn't mean I'm criticizing you. It's just I know better. No, well, yeah, you want to control outcomes because I want it to be right. I know the right way. I've done it before. Put it that way. Sometimes you've done it before and you want to tell people this is the best way. I've tried, and they just don't take too kindly to that. I don't know.
But then it's also their journey of learning too. They've got to find out what process works best for them.
Well, they should start with mine, and then they can try refining it.
There you go. There you go. Kim first, and then their second.
Yeah, well, I've been around longer.
Oh, my goodness.
How about you? Are you trying to control outcomes?
You know what? I have to say yes. And I could probably think of one of the outcomes, maybe today, last night. My son came home from work really early yesterday. He did something at work. He got written up. Him and his boss, I guess, didn't see eye to eye, so his boss sent him home. And so he comes home, and I'm trying to control the outcome. Like, you know what? You really do need to control that. You have a lot of fire energy in you, and your fire energy is going to get you in a lot of trouble if we don't start controlling this fire energy. And so it was me finding a way of just trying to control him to just kind of let go of some of that anger that he had, instead of helping him express it in a different way. As I'm now thinking about this and how I could see how, as a mom, I'm like, look, we need a job, we need this, we need that, and him like, well, I'm not being treated like that. And I said, well, I can get that, but you still need the job. And so I'm trying to control the outcomes and having him, like, trying to calm him down and not be so heated. So I would say I sometimes, like, look at it that way, where I'm trying to, like, okay, buddy, let's control the anger here, and you need a job. And yes, he knows he needs a job. He just doesn't need his mom telling him that he needs to calm down and control down. He's got to learn that. But he walked through my door of my house, so he became open target.
Well, and I see that, yeah, you're trying to control it. That is being of service because you're helping him work through it. But if it doesn't work out the way you're trying to direct it, you're still going with the flow.
And then I step back and have to say, you know what? It's his choices, and if he ends up with not having a job, that's on him. That's his consequences. I have to let him learn. But it becomes a little more difficult when they actually live with you and you actually see it. I feel like it's a little bit easier if they don't live with you and then they have to figure it out on their own, because then you don't feel like you have that responsibility of trying to get him, to get another job or have that job, or, go to work and behave yourself kind of thing. Because it was more like, go to work and behave yourself. Watch your tongue kind of thing coming out of my mouth, because I know he's got a lot of fire in him. And his tongue can get the best of him sometimes.
What And I remember Cortland was talking about the 5 elements, and I don't know if he touched on this idea, but if your sun has so much fire, how can you bring in more water to tone it down or take away the fuel?
Working out works really well with him. You
Okay.
know, he could have gone for a run, drinking more water, going to the gym, that kind of stuff.
Okay. That was a really good episode, too, if y'all want to go
Yes.
watch core stuff. That was cool.
Yes.
And and then the one that Jonathan Trish did, I think you're talking about communion with God, might have been the title.
Communion with God. Thank you. Yes. Everything, everything is communing with God, from mowing the lawn to taking a shower to sleeping to getting dressed to making dinner. You can commune with God in every aspect of your life.
Talking with your son.
Yes. And just being present. So,
yeah, cool.
What does serving truth look like in my current season of life?
That's kind of like, what does it mean? What is serving truth? What is serving truth?
I think of it, the first thing that came to my mind was wisdom. As we mature, we don't grow old, we mature like trees. As we mature, we gain wisdom, we gain knowledge. And so in our seasons of life, we have increased wisdom throughout our different seasons. As young kids until they graduate high school, that's a season. And then you have your 20s, and that's another season. And so each season, you're gaining wisdom, you're gaining knowledge, you're gaining life experiences. And so where we are at in our life right now is, what's our season look like? What's the wisdom that we've received? What is the knowledge that we have received, and how are we using that to serve our truth?
I would think in my season of life, what I'm kind of working with is trying to control things, but in a way that isn't combative with somebody. We're not knocking heads, but it's more asking questions so they can find their own way. And I'm not good at this yet. But still just asking questions instead of telling people what to do, because they kind of don't like that.
Yeah, but no one wants to be told what to do.
No, but I like to tell people what to do.
It's restating your questions instead, or you're telling you the way you're telling them to restate them, to give them ideas, suggestions, invitations. I invite you to look at something like this. I invite you to think of a different way of doing things, instead of saying, I'm telling you, you need to do it this way. I invite you to try it this way. I invite you to close the door that way. I'm telling you to stop slamming that door that way. It's just a different tone. It's a different way of talking to people. And the more you can go off to suggesting or inviting or giving an intention, there's more apt for them to go with your choices than saying, I'm telling you to make the bed this way. Do not leave wrinkles in the bed. Do you understand me? It's I know better kind of thing. Where, my suggestion is, let's take the wrinkles out of the bed. Then see how it feels when you go to bed at night. doesn't it feel better when you don't have a bunch of wrinkles in the bed? Just kind of help restate.
Yeah, and me asking the questions, like getting them to think about the other person's perspective, like, what do you think happened to them in their childhood that would make them do that? Just to get them like, whoa, oh yeah, grandma was like this, so no wonder dad's like that. That sort of thing.
Exactly. I don't know. I don't even remember the scenario, but there was something was on the news, and my mom was all upset at the time, and she was ready to hang the person that did this awful deed. And I said, Mom, I said, do you know what the situation of this person is? I said, maybe they didn't feel like they had any other options. Maybe this was the only option they felt was the best one for that. I said, we're not in their shoes, so let's not pass a judgment on somebody that we've never walked in their shoes to. And just kind of looking at things a little bit differently to kind of see from an angle of somebody else going through something that's, if it hits the news, it's not a very pleasant experience. So, whatever that experience is, kind of look at it from different angles before passing that judgment.
And it's the news with their own judgment. So exactly. Don't take on their judgment.
Exactly. Because you don't know. Are they even telling the full story? And so it was something that really, and then my mom just kind of looked at me and she was like, even though she had dementia, it still struck a nerve within her and got her mind thinking a little bit differently. So it was just me trying to have her look at something differently than to just all out judgment. You know what? Hang this person. This person should get the death penalty. I was like, whoa. Let's back up here and look at this person from a different viewpoint, because maybe it's not what you think it is. So.
Cool.
Yeah. So the last question, and then we'll go on to number 6. Okay. How would my attitude shift if I saw my work, my relationships, and my choices as the act of devotion? Well, I think we've talked about that quite a bit.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Shall we go on, or do you want to?
I think we should go on. Yeah, let's go on. If one of our callers, listeners, wants to join in, pop in, this is now. This is now the time. If you want to, we're moving on. Okay. So the last core idea from the Bhagavad Gita about the art of the warrior is that fear dissolves through self-knowledge. It's funny how everything kind of builds on each other. You were just talking about kind of looking deeper into why somebody else would do that, and that dissolves that fear, but looking into our own selves and why we're doing it can dissolve fear. So let's see. Krishna teaches the self is never born and never dies. I think I heard that somewhere. Oh, was the eternal teachings in the poem that I read? Oh, yeah, I remember now. Yeah. You were never born, so you can never die. But please be safe. You can leave this body, but you don't really die. Let me put it that way. So Arjuna fears killing and loss. He doesn't want to do the war. Krishna reframes identity beyond the body. You are not the body. He explains that your essence cannot be cut, burned, or destroyed. He teaches you are not the mind. If you believe you are only the body, fear makes sense. And he teaches you are the eternal self. If you know yourself as the self, courage arises naturally. I'm not there yet. Anyway, so the message is fear shrinks when identity expands. The Gita's warrior is fearless, not because nothing can be lost, but because the self cannot be destroyed. So our essence is still moving on. The Bhagavad Gita's warrior isn't fighting for victory, he's fighting for alignment with truth. His real mastery is inner clarity, devotion, and self-knowledge. So when identity shifts, fear of loss diminishes, courage becomes natural, and action becomes clean, meaning like obvious. This is the action I'm going to take.
Yep.
That's what I take it to mean. Is that what you think? Action becomes clean. Anything before we move on to questions on this idea?
No, I agree with Krishna, and we are not the body or the mind, because of our just.
And we keep going.
Divine. Yep.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to read through these questions. If there's, I'm going to read through them all, and you tell me which ones you want to kind of go with. When I feel fear, what am I afraid of losing? And what does that reveal about how I see myself? When I feel fear, what am I afraid of losing? Do I identify more with my roles, my body, and my thoughts, or with a deeper, unchanging self? How might my choices change if I trusted that my true essence cannot be harmed? Where could greater self-understanding soften my fear or hesitation? What would courageous action look like if it came from alignment with truth rather than fear of loss? So, where do you want to go with that?
A lot. So I've had a reoccurring dream of being buried alive, small spaces, not being able to get out, being in a car that only has 2 doors and sitting in the back seat, not being able to get out if something were to happen, that fear of being trapped, and that comes up a lot for me. And I'm just now starting to get to the point where I can either, not that I still don't fall for it, in my dreams or whatever it is, but I'm working on letting my body know we are not the body, we're not the mind, we are a divine being, in that just because we feel like we're trapped in these things, we're not confined, because we can, once we find that stillness within us, then the whole world opens up, and we have that peace out in the world where we can. You're not trapped, and I even think sometimes that me feeling like if I was ever to be trapped in my body, and then I have to stop and tell myself, well, you're never really trapped in your body, but it also depends on how well or how much stillness you have, and how much you've cultivated that, how much you've moved up Jacob's ladder to the next realms, and be able to move yourself and see yourself outside the body and not just this body. Because when people look at we're just this body and we're just this mind, it puts lots of limitations on us. It's confining right there. You're making yourself confined by thinking that you're only this body and you're only this mind. And when you can bring yourself past the body and past the mind, there's a lot more possibilities for you to expand and be able to do the things you need to do. But that also means cultivating a lot of stillness and a lot of self-awareness and a lot of being able to be that wind through the trees with your thoughts and just kind of letting them go so that you can be that be your divine essence that will allow you to be free no matter what state you're in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's all about how we think of ourselves, how we identify ourselves, what we are, and that can shift our actions.
Yep.
What are we going to do? What are we going to think? Are we going to be in fear? Are we going to have the courage?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, I agree with all that.
So,
if you'd like to move on.
So the key warrior principles from the Bhagavad Gita: act from duty, not ego; release attachments to outcomes; stay inward and steady; face life, don't bypass it; offer actions as service; know who you truly are. And so we've looked at 3 different books the last 5 podcasts, and this is the last one. And so now we're going to just do a brief, how contrast focused of these teachings, what each teaching brought to the table. So Dan Millman brought peace and self-mastery, how to stay present. Sun Tzu brought strategy and resistance and how to act wisely. And the Bhagavad Gita was sacred actions and devotion and why to act at all. The Bhagavad Gita, go ahead.
Hold on. So Sun Tzu brought strategy and...
restraint.
Yeah.
Sorry. The Bhagavad Gita teaches that the art of the warrior is not about avoiding life or forcing outcomes. It's about acting with integrity, courage, and devotion, while releasing attachments to results. The warrior becomes an instrument of something greater. Where are we avoiding action in the name of peace? What would it mean to act fully without clinging to outcomes? And how does surrendering change the way we face difficult choices?
What would it mean to act fully without clinging to outcomes? My thought was we would go for it because we don't care if we make it or not. It's the trying, it's the journey, it's the hero's journey. We got to go through it to get to the end.
Yep.
I'm sure we all avoid action in the name of peace. How many times do we just shut up?
Exactly. Because one isn't really going to matter. That one's almost choosing your what's my word that I'm looking for? Choosing your I can't think of it.
Battle?
Yes, thank you. Choosing your battles. Because I don't know why I couldn't think of battle, but whatever. When you're looking at peace, someone could be like, and you're just like, you know what? No matter what I say, what I do, it's not going to change that person's outcome. So you're actually avoiding an action to maintain some peace. But you're also being that bigger person by not engaging into that.
Yeah. It's just it's a It's a call you have to make.
Right. It's circumstances, what, is it this circumstances or that circumstances? And it's us learning how to be able to cultivate our own peace and be able to, put those boundaries up so that we can maintain our peace and maintain self-worth and respect, and that, and that peace that comes along with it.
And I was thinking about doing what's right, not what's going to give you the outcome you want, but doing what's right, and the outcome, it's going to be what it's going to be.
Right. That hard choice, I know if I do this outcome is going to be much harder to do, but is it the right thing? Sometimes those right things come with some pretty heavy consequences, but it's the right thing, so you do what's right when there's consequences that are going to happen.
Yeah, and it's what we think is right, because what we think is right isn't really right. It's just what we think is right. It's a judgment call. It's a label we're putting on what's good, what's bad, and it's all just is. I don't know the answer.
Me either. So the bottom line, the Gita teaches that the highest warrior is the one who acts consciously in the world while remaining free within. Woo-hoo, we finished. Woo-hoo.
Well, almost.
Well,
almost.
But everything comes down to light, sound, and presence, and that's what's next.
Yeah, because as we were studying this stuff, it's across ancient spiritual traditions, there's a recurring pattern of light, sound, and presence that I think we've talked about it before. Other ministers in this series of the Blue Star Connection has talked about it. But they appear together, light, sound, presence, as expressions of the divine. So different cultures, they use different language, but they were pointing to the same lived experience of God or Source.
Yep.
So simply put, light reveals, sound creates, and presence sustains. So I'm going to go a little deeper in that. So light symbolizes illumination and knowing. So it represents awareness and truth, revelations, and consciousness itself. So light is what allows things to be seen as they are. But I think first comes sound, vibration, wave. Sound symbolizes creative vibration and word. So sound represents creation, vibration, expression, order. Sound is how the unseen becomes manifest. So first, this is my interpretation. First you have sound, and then those waves come together to create a form which the light shows us, allows things to be seen. And then the third is presence, which symbolizes being and indwelling spirit. It's stillness, life force, I am, the field in which light and sound appear. So presence is what gives rise to light and sound. If you don't have presence, how can you have light and sound? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it's just being fully aware, fully conscious of what's going on with, as you're hearing the light or hearing the sound and seeing the light in that. Yeah.
So presence is God within us, not distant or abstract.
Should I read the next one?
I would love you to.
Okay. How this connects to the art of the warrior. The trinity of light, sound, and presence. Light is seen, sound is heard, presence is felt. Together, they describe direct experience, not belief. Ancient spirituality was particularly not not theoretical.
Can I help you with that one? It was participatory. So you participated in it. You didn't just go listen to the preacher telling you about it. You communed with God.
Yes. The warrior learns to see clearly, light, to speak and act intentionally, sound, remain anchored, present. The warrior without presence is reactive. The warrior without light is blind, and the warrior without sound has no creative power. Bottom line.
I'll read the bottom line. Across ancient texts, including the Christian Bible, we see the same Trinity repeated: light that reveals, sound that creates, and presence that sustains. These aren't abstract ideas. They describe how the divine is experienced. The warrior learns to see clearly, speak truthfully, and remain present, becoming a living expression of that Trinity. Now we can say it. We had no idea this was going to be five episodes. But thanks for hanging in there, everybody.
Yep.
Oh, and do like, share, and subscribe. There's buttons down there for you to do it. We want other people to find us is why. We're not into the numbers. We're just into service. So there you go.
Yes. So, Kim, you want to tell what's coming up with Christopher and the ministry and all that's coming up?
Yeah, I would love to. Well, first coming up next is a Natural Wellness Expo. Christopher's going to be in Port St. Lucie, Florida, June 28th and 29th. If you want some more details, go to your favorite website, ChristopherTims.com, and you can click on the live in-person events and find more information. He's got a whole schedule for the rest of the year going on, so you can check out when he'll be near you. You go get your tuning fork session would be great. And he's also doing this cool workshop, I guess you would call it. It's a three-parter. He's calling it the Golden Thread, July 16th, Thursday, the 23rd, and the 30th. So 3 Thursdays in a row from 6:30 to 9. And it's available in person at BAM. You will need to reserve your seat, or you can do it online. And the cost is $300 for all 3 episodes. So I'm curious, what is the golden thread? I don't know. Should I know? Should I know this?
Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
We'll find out.
Maybe it's like you gotta yarn the thread. You pull this, and then everything just is connected. And you pull it too much, you got a pile of nothing worthy. I don't know. Life is a metaphor.
That's right.
So yeah, that's I don't know if you know anything else about what he's going to talk about on the Golden Thread to add to that.
I do not at this point in time, but more to come. We'll have more information coming soon.
Yeah, so. And from what I understand, he's always evolving, we're always evolving, so we're always hearing what we need to hear. Things are changing. They're the same, yet they're different.
Yep.
So I bet he might even talk about light, sound, and presence.
There's a good chance he'll be talking about light, sound, and presence.
The golden light.
Golden light.
And the thread that was formed by sound in the field of presence.
That's right. And here we all are.
Yay, and we made it in time. I'm so excited.
Yes, we did. So, do you have anything else you'd like to share before we say our closing poem and then, or closing statement, I guess, is what I'm going to be sharing tonight.
No, I'm just glad everybody joined us, and like, share, subscribe. We're on YouTube, Rumble, and BitChute, and Christopher shares it even more places. But look for Blue Star Connection.
Yay!
That's all I have to say.
Awesome. All right. So we're going to close with a quote that Marianne Williams written, and sit back and just take it in. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are we not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that others don't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We are born to make manifested the glory of God that is within us. It is not just some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are brilliant from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Thank you, Marianne Williams. Well, it's been a pleasure to do this podcast. We'll be back with a new series in July, and we will let you know what that will be as soon as we figure that one out. With that, if anybody has any questions, now's the time to ask. If not, we send our love to everyone, and happy Ascension. And we'll see you on the calls on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. Yay!